Back on the Young Turks. Now I believe we're going to have an interesting conversation with Peter Brimelow. He is with VDare.com. Peter, welcome to the Young Turks.
Great to be with you again, Jack.
Okay. You know, I know we've had you on before, but for people that are not familiar, I want you to tell us what VDare is, because some, of course, have, I think we might have discussed it earlier, have called you guys a hate group, including the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah, well, we call them a treason group, of course, so I guess we're equal.
You call them a treason group.
VDare.com flowed out of a book I wrote on immigration in 1995 called Alien Nation, and it was really a root and branch criticism of American immigration policy. Now, shortly after that, I was at National Review at the time. There was a civil war in the American conservative community, which we lost, and so the George Bush faction won, and all discussion of immigration became sort of impossible. So we set up this website, VDare.com. It's named after the first English child to be born in the New World, Virginia Dare.
Okay, so...
And, basically it supplies facts and analysis about immigration and immigration policy, which you simply can't get in the mainstream media, either liberal or conservative.
Okay, so having established that well enough, let's move forward to this particular item here, which is a unique argument that you guys have on the website, saying that instead of trying to reach out to Hispanic groups more, because that's a growing demographic in the country, that you should reach out to white voters more. Let's first talk about why people have the conventional wisdom that they do. Tell us about the demographics of the country and how it affects the voting.
Well, basically, Jenk, in this country, about 3/4 of the vote is white, and the Republican vote is about more than 90% white. They're fundamentally a white party, and the Democrats, basically, their strategy is to unite all the minorities and to divide the majority. So they get very high proportions of the minority votes, and they get some section of the white vote. They actually lost the white vote pretty handily in the last election. They got about 45% of it. So the question is, however, having said that, what's happening, of course, is that because of immigration, the white proportion in the country is steadily shrinking. So the question is, what do the Republicans do about this? Well, of course, we think that for this and a lot of other reasons, they should cut off immigration. But what they think, which is to say what the Republican campaign consultants think, is that they should reach out to minority groups and try and boost their share of, for example, the Hispanic vote. And that was what George W. Bush, basically said he was going to do. And he just didn't do it, that's all. But he certainly tried, and that's what the amnesty was all about. Of course, it's foolish because the numbers don't make any sense. Even a significant increase of the Republican share of the Hispanic vote was easily swamped by a relatively small increase of the white vote.
Well, look,
the fact is they're not turning out their white base. The proportion of the turnout of the whites fell in the last election, not surprisingly.
Peter,
they never get a good big share of it. They only get about 54%.
There's politics and policy here. Let's try to address both. One, on the political level, in fact, Bush did reach out to Hispanics better. In 2004, he did as well as any Republican has done. He got 40% of the Hispanic vote, and he wound up winning narrowly because of it. Does that not convince you at all?
First of all, it's not true that he got 40%. We've had a very extensive discussion of this on the site.
I got that from your website.
And what it showed was that it was about 37%. It was the original exit polls were wrong. But secondly, what Bush did was he turned out the white vote in very high numbers, relatively high numbers, I should say, and they got about 57, 58% of it, whereas in 2000 he'd only gotten about 50%, 52, 53%. So they actually did what we've been recommending, which is to say in-reach rather than outreach, but they didn't say they were doing it. They said the exact opposite. It's a great lesson in politics, really. It doesn't matter what you say, it's what you do.
Well, that's interesting, but you see, that leads to two different things. First of all, I got that 40% number, not just from everywhere else, but I got it from your website. So that's on your website, just so you know.
Well, there's a heated discussion about it, you know. We revised the numbers several times as more evidence came out.
All right. And then number two, but doesn't that go against your point to some degree? Because he got the white vote out, but since he was, in your opinion, wrong on immigration, the white vote didn't really vote based on immigration. They voted for other reasons.
It was on the wrong side of the immigration issue. What it voted on, Jenk, and it's a very sad thing, it voted on the war. The war was very popular with, well, it isn't that it was popular, but there was a real patriotic reaction to 9/11, and the Republicans rode that very hard. and they benefited from it completely unjustifiably, in my opinion. It did succeed in turning out the whites, and they got a high share of the white vote.
So then that leads me to believe that your overall strategy of let's turn out the white voters by being anti-immigration doesn't necessarily make sense, because that's not what they're voting on.
Well, it's a two-part question. Let's turn out the white vote. There's no doubt that works. On immigration, we haven't seen that tried yet, because Bush did exactly the opposite, and so did McCain.
And he succeeded.
In favor of the amnesty. On the other hand, I'd rather appeal to them on the basis of the immigration issue, which is a legitimate issue, than the war, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a completely fallacious issue.
All right, now, but
I belong to the faction, really, of the. I guess I'm a paleo conservative. We're against the war.
All right, now you concede that by 2050, if things continue as they are, the Democrats, just because of demographic reasons alone, are likely to go up from 53% of the vote that Obama got to 59% of the vote, in which case the Republican Party would be nearly extinct on a national level as far as their chance of winning a presidential election.
Yes, on a national level, that's right. So they have to do something. And what we think they should do, apart from stopping immigration, is, if you look at the numbers, they could still win in 2050 if they got, for example, 70% of the white vote as opposed to 52 or 3%.
So let's address that.
That's not undoable at all. I mean, there's several states in the country that's where the Republicans start off demographically in far worse shape than they're going to be in 2050, but they still win because they turn out vast numbers of white voters. Alabama being the best example. 88% of whites vote for Republicans in Alabama for some reason. They're nowhere near close to losing Alabama.
Well, we're talking to Peter Brimelow from VDare.com. So, but 70% is a gigantic number, Peter. What's your battle plan for getting 70% of the white vote?
In many individual states. In the South, you get much higher proportions of the white vote than that. The other thing is that, the Democrats get much higher proportions of their base. They got, how many, something like 95% of the black vote?
Obama did, yes. He got 96% of it. So what's your plan, though, Peter? How are you going to get all those white people to vote for you?
Well, I mean, fundamentally, the Republicans have to become a patriotic party, and they have to represent the interests of the white working class apart from anything else. I mean, if you look at the numbers, Jack, I'm sure you're familiar with this, income inequality in this country has risen very dramatically over the last 30 years. The incomes of most people have stagnated for 30 years.
That's right.
There are a number of reasons.
Because of Republican policies.
I'm sorry?
Because of Republican policies pushed forward.
Well, it goes
by
back
Ronald
30 years, so it's including Clinton as well. But, I mean, there's a number of reasons for it. Well, one reason has to be the tremendous influx of labor that's come in since the 65 Act and the decision on the part of the elites to stop enforcing the law on the border and to allow illegal immigration.
Yeah, I can't. I've studied this fairly at length. I'm not saying I'm the world's renowned expert on it, but most people view that as a function of tax policy and as a function of the economic policies that we had a lot more than the factor of immigration.
My observation of professional economists is that they tend not to think about the immigration issue at all because it's so politically incorrect. But there is a technical literature among labor economists on it, and it shows that there's a significant impact from expanding.
So, but Peter, the problem is,
and it actually applies even to college graduates now.
So the problem is, though, you're going to try to get white voters on this idea of patriotism by saying the immigrants cause your wages to go down.
Well, bluntly, yes, there's too much immigration. It's having a lot of serious side effects, and one of them is a reason why why is it that we have 50 million unemployed and 8 million illegal immigrants holding jobs at the moment?
Well, it's because the corporations get cheap labor that way.
150,000 illegal immigrants come in every month in a situation where we have unemployment that's unprecedented for 25 years. Now, of course, this is enormously beneficial, to the people who give money to the Republican Party, namely corporations.
Well, that we're agreed on. But Peter, that we're agreed on. But I've got limited time here, so let me ask something. Don't you see how it might put some people off, and then that's why they think you're racially based, to put it kindly, when you keep saying that, hey, listen, we got to appeal to the white voters and we got to be against the immigrants. Now, why not appeal to white, Hispanic, and black voters against immigrants, not based on race?
That's a really paradoxical thing about the immigration issue, which, of course, at VDare.com we happen to be focused on. If you look at results that for example, the proposition in Arizona cutting off illegal immigrants from various forms of tax-funded welfare, that got 45% of the Hispanic vote in Arizona. It ran well ahead of John McCain. I mean, the fact it's not at all clear that.
So why not appeal to the Hispanic vote? Why not appeal to the Hispanic vote? Why concentrate all of your efforts on the white vote?
I guess what I think is we should appeal to the American vote. And
that would be a better way of phrasing it. Yes.
I'm sorry?
That would be a better way of phrasing it. Yes. So that's why I'm curious why you keep saying the white vote.
The fact is, I mean, the fact is that the numbers are very clear here. And what we've been told is that people simply don't realize how badly the Republicans do with their base vote, and how hard it would be to get any. I mean, it just doesn't add up that they could possibly get any kind of vote out of Hispanics that's going to equal the results of even quite a small improvement in the white vote. The math just isn't there.
All right, we're out of time, Peter, but I want to thank you for joining us. He's with VDare.com, and ironically, he's also an immigrant, as I am. But we've discussed that before on the show. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
All right, Young Turks.